Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another review, and today I'm taking a look at this, the King of Braves Gaogaigar. Now this is a real great model kit by Bandai, and it may just be the greatest model kit line of all time. Every time they pump one out, it's more and more impressive. And this right here is probably the wildest and most over-the-top real great kit I have ever seen. Anyway, before I actually jump into the review, of course this video right here was sponsored by those awesome people over at HobbyLink Japan, so if you do want one of your own, there's a link down there in the description. Now let's check it out. So this is a kit right here that is so unique, I don't actually know where to start. I usually have the same routine I go through for every single review, but this builds up so differently, and the kit itself is so unique that it's not like any other mecha model kit I have ever seen before. First off, this is a combiner, so there is a bunch of different units that do combine together to create the King of Braves, Gaogaigar. But before I do that, I guess we're going to have to take a look at every unit independently, starting off with the main body, which is the Gaigar. So when it comes to the actual build of this model kit, it's really fun and definitely a different change from your normal mecha model kit build. You start off, like I mentioned, with the Gaigar. You build up this in its humanoid form first, then you can transform it to the lion form, and then you build the rest of the units. Only really after having built up all of the units can you finally combine it into its final form, which is the Gaogaigar, which is really fun, honestly. So when it comes to the actual build of the Gaigar itself, this to me actually blew me away because this in itself almost feels like a complete kit. Actually, it 100% does feel like a complete kit. Tons of detail, tons of articulation, and it builds up with layer after layer after layer, and all the gimmicks for the actual transformation that exist in the actual Gaigar itself is included here. This thing is phenomenally detailed. For me, the only real letdown is the fact that the gold plastic in this, of course, is gold injection plastic. That is definitely advantage over sprayed plastic inside of the box, I guess, because that's harder to clean up. But if you do want this to look absolutely ridiculously over the top, I always recommend painting your golds, but still out of box, looking phenomenal. So if you're like me and a kit gets released, the first thing you want to know is just how big it is. And this isn't even the full kit combined yet, and it still dwarfs a 1/44th scale Gundam. Now I will mention, this kit right here is actually non-scale, so this isn't 1/44th scale like your standard real grade kit is. I guess it's more like a real grade Ava kit, which is also non-scale. Now when it comes to the actual Gaigar itself, it's meant to be 23.5 meters tall. Now that would make it just about the size of a Gundam like the new Gundam. So actually throwing the new Gundam in beside it right there, try not to knock them out of the way. Well, you can see that it actually comes in a little bit shorter, so I guess it's a little bit off 1/44th scale, but not a million miles away from it. Anyway, there's the real grade Sazabi, real grade Crossbone, real grade Gundam Mark II, and the real grade Unicorn. But yeah, jumping into the aesthetics on the Gaigar itself, this thing does look utterly incredible. Once again, I would recommend painting the gold to make that pop, but still out of box, it doesn't look that bad at all. We've got some nice clear parts up on the forehead, as well as in the eyes of the lion on the chest. We do have to use stickers for the head camera as well as the eyes. We'll mention the eyes can be a little bit difficult to attach because they are independent, so you put on one then the other so they don't line each other up. And the general detail all over this is phenomenal. This isn't panel lined or anything because I didn't get that extra bit of time to put into this kit right here, but on the whole, it looks so good. Posed hands, fantastic detailing, and the overall plastic quality is ridiculous. This thing, it looks phenomenal, and we're only getting started. However, there is something I will mention after taking a look at what this particular aspect of this kit is meant to look like, as in, like that right there. The head on this actually is kind of comically tiny. So there's a bit of a side-by-side comparison, the real grade of course on the right, and the image from the wiki of what Gaigar is meant to look like on the left. So in here we also have some Gaigar exclusive accessories, which are an extra pair of hands. So we've been seeing the widespread open hand so far, that's these ones right here, incredibly nicely detailed, very nice pose, and we also have the option of these fists as well. Again, very nice detail and looking good. Swapping them out is the usual routine. It's just a simple ball joint attachment. Pop them out, pop them back in again. Super simple. So when it comes to the actual articulation on the Gaigar aspect of this model kit itself, this is extremely nice. It's smooth, it's strong. I will mention the feet can be a little bit unsteady in standing poses. Find sometimes it tends to rock back a little bit. It's hard to actually get the feet joints, or should I say the ankle joints, to get it standing solid on the ground, but once you do, it will always hold up. It just may be likely to be knocked backwards a little bit. However, in here we do have an action base adapter, so that means you can actually display this up on an action base instead. This actually just slots onto the crotch like so, and I will mention the adapter that you need for this is one of those square top adapters that you get with an action base 4 or 5, because this is one of those action base adapters with that really thick peg sticking out of it. Some of the really cool aspects to the actual articulation on this kit is we've got one of those dropping hips inside of it with a really nice locking mechanism. In order to drop the hips down, you actually open this little bit of a segment in the bottom of the crotch. You can then drop the joint and then lock that piece back in, locking the joint in position. You can do this with both legs independently, so you can have one dropped joint and one not dropped and both locked perfectly in position. This is great for those front kick poses and for basically getting any kind of jumping forward action pose. Works perfect. The ab crunch here is a nice separating aspect. You're actually able to pull the entirety of the ab crunch open like this, which means you can actually crunch it all the way to the front as well as all the way to the back. You can even move the jaw of the lion on the chest and the undersection of that to get even more crunch for some deep poses like this crouch right here. This is really good. On top of all of that, then, we've got a multi-joint assembly inside of the shoulders that kind of drawers out of the actual torso. So that means we've got multiple points of articulation up in the shoulders, so that means we can get some crazy over-the-top upper body poses too. So between all the different articulation we have in here, the nice smooth moving aspects, you're going to kill any pose with this particular kit right here. Again, the only real issue I ever had with it is the ankles. There isn't much pivot side to side, and sometimes they can look a little bit unnatural in some poses, but most of the time, looking fantastic. So even considering the amount of awesome articulation this particular kit has, we also have the full transformation to Galeon as well. So this transformation right here is both delightfully simple, easy to pull off and smooth, and what you end up with is just as awkward and kind of ridiculous as you would hope. Now this does look great in a really awkward, not having a neck kind of way. Now if I do throw up the actual art of what Galeon should look like, this of course is not nearly as dynamic. It would be nice if we had a little bit more articulation in the back legs, but of course that would affect the overall structural stability of the actual robot itself. But the fact that this can actually transform, it is such a smooth and beautiful transformation, you can't really hate too much on the end result. Again, when it comes to real grades, they tend to be a bit of a design variant to the actual original content. So now moving on to the next unit we have in here, which is the Liner Gao, which I shit you not is a train, specifically a Shinkansen by the looks of things. Now, there's more than meets the eye here in a kind of Transformers-y, transforming kind of way, and this does transform, just not necessarily into a robot. Into the, well, an element of a robot. Down in the bottom we do have wheels and whatnot, but you can also see that we do have some moving elements here too. The build of this is quite unique. Of course, you build the moving aspects inside of it. The wheels have to be done, well, not 1 by 1, but 2 by 2, which is quite the level of detail. The windows on here are stickers, so it is worth noting you do have to stick these on, but these are very nice premium stickers. They're made out of a pretty thick slice of plastic. We've got some nice detail on them and they catch the light nicely, like a train's windows. And speaking of train's windows, the actual window segment we have on the front and rear, or whichever is the front and whichever is the rear, this comes on one of those old school MS joint kind of runners, which means there's multiple plastics poured into the one runner at the same time, so we do have clear and black at the same time in each of these parts, which is very, very nicely detailed. Now, we're not actually going to be doing anything with this just yet because, well, it's just a train for now, so it doesn't do anything at all but look like a train. On to the next unit. So the next element we have in here is the Drill Gao. Now, this looks absolutely phenomenal. The detail on this is incredible. We've got a pair of drills up front. This is, for the most part, gold on red on black, and it looks so good. The detailing all over this, even the inner frame of this has some incredible detail inside of it. Definitely the most impressive aspect about this is the caterpillar tracks on this actually do work, so they do spin around like so. But I will mention, while you're building this, you have to build every, or should I say cut out and clean up and attach every single element that does make up the caterpillar tracks. This takes quite a while, but it's not too bad, and the attachment is easy to pull off, so in the end these work out very, very nicely. Besides that, just like with the Liner Gao, this doesn't actually do anything on its own per se, so we'll be saving this for the full transformation, or should I say fusion, later on to the next element. So finally now onto the final element, which is the Stealth Gao. Once again, this looks incredible. It is the biggest element of them all, and there's quite a lot going on here, but not much we can actually do with it just yet. Like I mentioned, the plastic on this is phenomenal, the detail is great. We've got a little windshield or windscreen in the front there that's made of a nice reflective material that emulates the look of glass. We've got the GGG on the wing. This is actually molded in gold plastic as opposed to being a sticker, which is always a super nice aspect. We've got some venting in the upper section right here, which these all can pivot themselves, open up a little bit, close up super simply, and we've got some great detail all over the place. The little engines you're seeing up front there, these actually house the hands, and I will mention when it comes to the build of the hands, these are pretty much those fully posable hands, but this is a new style entirely. These might be the smallest ones I have ever seen. They're made out of more parts than you'd usually see out of these. The main aspects being the 4 fingers and the thumb. These are both pre-molded on that real grade style advanced joint. And of course, as usual, they're quite delicate, so make sure to be careful with those. Anyway, once again, there's nothing we can really do with this just yet, so now it's time to get combining. Combo 1! Stealth Gao plus Liner Gao. So yeah, it's just exactly as you'd expect. You take this little adapter bit, stick it to the bottom of Stealth Gao like so, and then Liner Gao, the train, sticks in underneath. You're also able to attach this using another base adapter onto a action base, and this right here is what it looks like. So it's what you'd expect. It's a train stuck to the bottom of a stealth jet. Next one, Combo 2! Gaigar plus Stealth Gao. So once again, this combines exactly like you'd think it would. So you pop down these 2 little tabs on the back of the Gaigar, move back these little segments up on the shoulders, and then you can just attach it onto the Stealth Gao the exact same way we would have with the Liner Gao. This actually looks really good. It holds on perfectly and it looks cool. So there's an example of what it looks like with this on its back, looking awesome, only giving me a glimpse of an idea of what this is going to look like when it's finally Gaogaigar. Anyway, got another one to go first. Combo 3! Gaigar plus Drill Gao. So in order to do this, you just crack the Drill Gao in half like this to get 2 different elements. Move the foot up like so. We've got a little bit of a hook segment round back here. Slap this onto the wrists, and there you go. You got those big, punchy drill arms. Now, I only noticed while I'm turning the page right here that Combo 4! You can actually stick the Stealth Gao onto its back at the same time too, for a combination of the Gaigar plus Drill Gao plus Stealth Gao. This looks incredibly cool. This is what it looks like up in the hand. This is getting really big now, and I will mention the arms are actually strong enough to hold up those Drill Gaos, which is ridiculous considering how slender the actual mecha is. But I will mention the actual clips holding these on could be a little bit stronger, so be careful with this and you'll get the pose you want out of it, no bother. Now onto the last combo. Combo 5! And finally there is the King of Braves, Gaogaigar, finally put together. Now the actual combination here is quite easy for the most part. The only thing that I find is a little bit janky and a little bit awkward is the head. The mask on that just tends to fall off all the time. It's a little hard to attach. It could have been a little bit better designed, but besides that, this all goes together quite well and holds together well. By far the most impressive aspect about the transformation to me is the legs. The way they just fold open ever so perfectly and then just lock and latch onto the legs underneath just works seamlessly. So cool. I'll also mention at this point right here, we do have a big old sheet of decals as well. These are your real grade style decals. I did not use these, as you can see. These are sticker style, so these will definitely not work very well over black whatsoever. So there's always real grade water slides released at some point, so I recommend holding out for those. The silvery ones, those will work. All the shiny ones, but those sticker style ones, yeah. They may just detract from the overall look. So when it comes to the actual articulation on the fully fused Gaogaigar right here, it is absolutely ridiculous. Now first off, I will mention, it does have its finicky little aspects. For example, the fingers are easy to knock off, especially the index and the baby finger. You can pop the sides of the lion's face off really easy just by handling it. You can untransform the tops of the legs just by holding onto them, and you can just pop the entire head if you're not paying attention and try to turn it like a standard head. These are definitely aspects that are here, but if you consider the fact that this is 4 different elements combined together on top of each other with ridiculous part separation, ridiculous amounts of articulation and all of that, that really isn't that big of a deal. And honestly, you just have to hold this in the right places while moving it around to make sure none of those things happen. For example, I recommend taking the hands off in order to actually pose them before actually attaching them back on again. Try to pose them while they're attached, it's easy to knock parts off, and the same goes with a lot of other things. If you're moving the head, make sure to hold it correctly. That is to make sure to almost vice grip the back and front onto the head inside before turning it. And you can turn it, which is crazy considering it's attached to the backpack. Same with the head on the chest, just make sure you're not putting too much pressure on either the outside aspects of the head, which pop off easily. But besides that, what you're going to get is a lot of smooth movement, a lot of nice different aspects. For example, you can drop down the caterpillar tracks on the backs of the legs in order to get a bigger knee bend. Pretty much the exact knee bend you would have got with the Gaigar that is essentially the vast majority of this thing's articulation besides the arms. And the new arms also have fantastic articulation. This, once you get past the delicate aspects of it, is a joy to pose. So finally, now moving into the accessories that we have not seen yet. These ones right here are for the particular different moves that are done by Gaogaigar. So let's take a look at them one by one. So the first of the attacks we have in here is the dividing driver. This has to be my favorite thing in the entire box. There's just something about it. It's so nicely designed. The details all over it look great, the shade of orange and grey, it just all works out so well. We've one clear yellow segment around on the back right here, and a lot of the aspects of this are made out of actual metal. So when you're building this, there's a spring inside of it. The pistons here, those shafts are actually made out of a die-cast metal, and the end of the actual driver itself is made out of a metal too. So as far as I know, there isn't another real grade kit around with metal parts like this. So that is pretty awesome. Again, one of my favorite aspects. You just make the left hand into a fist, you can pop it on just like so, then it holds on very, very well, get it into a pose, and this looks incredible. This is one of those robot designs that has so many different colors going on it. Like, we've just added a bunch of orange and gray to it that it didn't have before, and it still works out quite well. So the next attack we can replicate in here is the Broken Magnum. So we did the left arm, this is the right arm's turn. Basically, we've got a little adapter in here for pulling off this particular attack. That's the only thing added to this. You just pop the arm off at the elbow, pop this adapter into the back of the forearm like so. This is a little bit of a letdown that this doesn't have your regular sort of peg in attachment here. This is a peg out, so that does mean you're going to have to run and grab some kind of adapter no matter what kind of action base that you're using. That seems a little strange. Maybe we're getting something in future you can use this with that it needs that, but that's unusual. Anyway, once you actually do get it up on an action base, you can pose it blasting through the air, just like what you're seeing right here. Next up then, we have to pop off the hands entirely for a brand new set. And by a set, I mean I guess it's one piece. This is for doing the Hell and Heaven attack. This is basically 2 hands clasped together. You just pop them into the wrist holes the way you would have before, line up the shoulders, and that is it. Done and dusted, and these hands look absolutely and utterly perfect. Finally then, we have the Protect Shade. This is 3 effect pieces, 2 of which are green plastic, these do fluoresce slightly under blue light, and 1 big acetate sheet which does not. You just pop the first segment onto the hand, just posed palm out like this, attach the acetate sheet onto it, and then pop this piece on to hold it all together sandwich style, and this is what it looks like. This looks effective and awesome, but it is a little bit sad that the actual sheet or acetate sheet part does not fluoresce under blacklight the same way that plastic does. It would have been cool to see the whole thing fluoresce, but still looking good and looking effective. So anyway, that right there is it for the review, and I give this right here Gaogaigar Stegosaurus tier. aka I have no idea what to give this whatsoever. This is such a unique kit. In a way, it's essentially perfect, and any issues that it does have really do come from the fact that this is such a complex kit with so many complex layers going on in a tiny package. Actually, if there was only one complaint I would really have about this, it's the fact that the head is so small on the Gaigar form. That is it. But I guess if it wasn't, we'd have a massive head on the Gaogaigar form. So in a way, it is great. So basically, to sum it up, aesthetically, every aspect of this looks great. Every single form of each of the elements looks amazing. I'm surprised by just how good the actual Gaigar looks. In the line mode, it could look a little bit better, but I guess you can't have everything. And there is no real down points when it comes to the overall looks on this kit. And again, I will mention, I did not panline, add stickers, or top coat this kit whatsoever. This is straight built. The accessories in here are phenomenal. You have different options of putting this together, a whole bunch of different weapons, and everything does is, well, essentially what it needs to do. And that driver is spectacular. Finally, when it comes to the articulation, again, I have to break this into elements. It's fantastic in the Gaigar. It could be a little better at the ankles, but they do transform. Well, the whole thing transforms. And it gets a whole lot of stuff packed on top of it, and it can deal with all of that no bother. It is a rock solid core. All of the other elements have transformation gimmicks that are fantastic, and they all combine together in such a unique way that I am amazed that Bandai has made this work the way it does. Sure, a little element here and there might fall apart when you're trying to move it around. You need to hold the head just right in order to, not unfold while you're moving it around, so clasp the back and the front while turning the neck. Don't lean on the sides of the lion's head. Be careful, bend the knees, and you will be absolutely golden. It's a ridiculous kit. As always, thank you so much for watching. I got mine from Hobby Link Japan. You can too. Link is down there in the description. If you love Gaogaigar, I highly recommend it. If you love crazy mecha model kits, I still highly recommend it. If you don't like finicky model kits, maybe you might want to give it a pass. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. As always, this video and every video would not be possible without each and every one of you guys who watches my videos. And special thanks to those of you who are supporting me over on Patreon and on the channel members, including Caleb Engelhart, Global Frequency Studios, Go Little Rockstar, Gunpla UK Limited, Joe, Kill Me Inc., Lawrence Seahack, RG59061, and Van Fawn.